Hey everyone, Ray here with Rinksworks. I'm back on this '06 Chevy Colorado. This is the one we built a headache rack for, along with these rails. And now the customer wants a spray-in bed liner put in here. And of course I'll take this back off, because I want that spray liner to come up to the edges here. And see the problem? In a big ass dent here. If we spray that over that, it's going to look really stupid. So we're going to fix it. I don't know how we're going to fix it, but we're going to fix it. And when we're done with it, it's going to look like this. How we get there, I don't know yet, but we're going to get there. And what I do know is that every project starts out with standing around and staring at it for a bit and planning. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stand around and stare at it for a little bit. Then we come back, we're going to get started fixing it. If you want to go on that journey and see how we do it, then stay tuned. I'll be back in a minute. Alright, let's get started on assessing this thing. You can see it's a pretty good dent. So I'm going to just take my level and set it across the side that's good. And if you look, it's flat all the way across. Now if we put it on this side, I mean, it's going to be no surprise, right? Big dent there. So I think I'm going to mark where this sort of starts dipping, which is right about in here somewhere. And on the other side, probably right about in here. So just a couple little marks there. Now, let's look at another aspect of this. So if we put this level right at the end here on the good side, and then hold it level here, or hold it flush on this side down here, come back, you can see the gap we have. Because this thing curves, right? The tailgate curves. So you can see there's a gap there. Now if we do the same thing on the other side, put the level at the edge of that hole there, look at that gap. So that means that this, even though it doesn't look like it from the naked eye so much, this piece here, when it got crushed, pushed this out right here. Now I'm going to climb in the truck and show you the inside. Alright, well, I didn't climb in the back of the truck, I just opened the tailgate. Much easier. So, you see these ribs here. This is the good side. And those are level, or, you know, same plane, whatever, all the way down. Now if we look at the other side, we know we're going to have a huge discrepancy here, because all of this got pushed out like that. How far down does it go? So here we're about, well, it's about halfway down the tailgate. You can see still, as we go all the way down the bottom, you can still see that this entire, basically the center rib has moved out this way. So I think what I'm going to do first and foremost is take off this cover. We'll get that off and we'll see how much access we have in there and then start making some decisions. Alright, well there's my answer. Not a lot of room up in there to get to that. Kind of expected. So there's a couple ways to approach this. I could attempt to maybe put some kind of a stud system on here and try to pull this out little at a time, This big hump here, I don't know. It seems like it'd be awfully time consuming. We're not worried about how this really looks when it's done, because we're going to spray the bed liner on it. So I think the best approach, to be honest, is to just cut this metal out of here. Cut it down here like so, up to these, probably not all the way out here, but maybe in here somewhere before the dent gets really deep. So maybe here. Cut this out, so like this, across, and down and over. And I think that'll relieve a lot of the tension. I think that might allow us to be able to push this back in to get rid of that hump. And I think it'll allow us to push this back in to get rid of this hump. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. So I'm going to contemplate this for a minute, and then we'll come right back. All right, I decided to cut it. So I'm going to use this 1/4 inch tape, and I'm just going to eyeball some lines across here, or a line, to use as a cut line. I'm using the indentations as a reference point by eyeball. You probably can't see it on camera, but this thing just humps big time like that. So I just eyeballed this distance from this edge here to this edge here. Same on both, to try to get somewhat of a straight line here. So now I'm just going to cut right across this line using this side of the tape. I'm going to cut across this line, and then I'll do the same thing. I'm going to put another piece of tape mark across that whole thing in the same way, just eyeballing it, then we'll cut it out. Alright, this is where I decided to start. So I'm going to cut this section out. I'm going to cut on the inside of the tape, actually, instead of the outside. I think I might have mentioned before. I'm going to cut on the inside, see if that gives me enough flexibility to get everything moved. And if I need to cut more, then I'll cut more. But for now, let's start there. Alright, there it is cut out. Now, I don't know if the camera really picked this up when I cut it, but once I got to a certain point, this whole thing just sucked back in. So if you look now, you can see a big difference in that area there. That's barely stuck out down there on the bottom. And same across the top, it relieved a little bit. So what we'll do now is we'll work on this. See if I can just kind of push that down, level it out. You can still see a little bend here, so we'll work on that. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. There's a little bit of a dent right here, and still here. I may need to cut this out further. I don't know. We'll see. But what I'm going to do first, where we cut it out, it's really sharp edges. So I'm just going to use my belt sander, and just come across here and clean off all those sharp edges. And then we can start working on forming this up. But you can see how much better that is already. So let me clean those edges off now. I'm sure the camera's not picking this up probably, but I'm actually able to manipulate this pretty good. And you can see that I'm getting that hump out of here. Oh, look at that. It's pretty much gone. Okay, so we still have a little bit of bow out right here. I'm going to just try something here. Yeah, suck that in a little bit. Just going to keep working this a little at a time. And I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to make it pleasing to the eye, or at least not noticeable, but to the eye. It's almost there. I think we've pretty much got the same gap now. So I think we're good here. Let's see how we're looking here. So we've got a little bit of a dent right here. I don't even know if it's worth fixing, but since we're here, let's see what we can do. We're actually very close to having it good enough, because again, we're not worried about it being perfect. We're worried about it being pleasing to the eye. Okay, I think we're getting close. I'm going to work on it just a little bit more. Then we'll figure out how we're going to fill that gap. It's getting really close. I have just a little bit of dip right here. Try to lever it up a little bit. Without hurting that. right, I think I got it as good as I'm gonna get it. Now, let's figure out what we're gonna do with that. Here's the piece I cut out. Maybe I'll just try to straighten it out. That might be the easiest thing to do. Yeah, let's try that. Guess I better start by getting all the sharp, jagged edges off of it. Well, let's see if I can straighten it out enough to make it usable. All right, I'll keep working on that. I'm gonna take a break. All right, we're pretty close. I think I'll go see kind of how this fits on the truck and uh, just take all the green paint off it since it's all flaked anyway and cracked. All right, let's see how it fits. Handle. I'm gonna try to just kind of place it on here and use a couple magnets to just hold it and see how it sort of rests in there. I definitely need to get all the paint off of it though. Get it kind of lined up and then I'll bring the camera over and sort of show you where it's at. Yeah. Next step, definitely getting the paint off. So it it dips down here a little bit. This piece that we just straightened is definitely not straight yet, but if getting there, I think we'll be able to use it. So let me get the paint off of it now, and then we'll work on a little bit more. I grind around this get all the paint off so that we can weld to it. All right, just to look at where we're at. Ground all the paint off around the hole. And also, I did the inside. You may not be able to see it, but what I did was I used a belt sander and just went down and got all the paint off the inside. And then what I'll do before we weld this on is shoot some weld through primer on the inside of this here. So now let's get back to making our piece fit. All right, so we're back on the piece that we straightened out. If I set it on here, you can see, hopefully, that the angle isn't quite right. See the big gap here? So I'm going to take it over the vise and start working on straightening that angle out and get it to match better. Also, and I'll do this off camera, I'm going to sand off the edges here and get all the primer off so that we can weld it better. And then I'll shoot it with some weld through primer before we actually weld it. All right, I worked on it a bit more. I got it pretty well lined up now. The angle is pretty good now. So I'm going to take it back off, hit the underside of this with weld through primer and this also. Once we get those primered, then we can start kind of fitting it in and weld it in. So let's paint those now. All right. Shoot some weld through primer on the inside here. All right, I set it back in with the magnets. Basically what I'm doing is I'm lining up these corners, this one and this one. I think I'll try to get those tacked on and then work my way around the thing. So let's get the welder set up. All right, it's ugly, but it's tacked on. All right. All right, now we can start working with it. All right, I got these two corners stuck on, that one and that one. Now I'll start working my way around and I'll just use a screwdriver or something to lift up, push down, whatever to try to even these out. We'll just do a little bit at a time. And it's going to take a bit of time. But once we get some strength in here, then we can start really working this thing. So that's what we're going to start doing now. All right, I forgot to start the camera. So I just started tacking these a little bit at a time. I'm letting it cool, so I'm going very slow. And I'm just going to keep going and keeping it cool as I can. I can actually start going down this way now. Hopefully this time I won't forget to start the camera. I'll show you a quick peek of what it actually looks like so far. So you can see I'm stitching it up. Try not to get too much heat in it. I have big gaps because when I cut this out, I actually was not thinking at all about reusing this piece. I was just going to make a new piece. So I would have cut this at like a 45-degree angle. It would have been a lot easier to weld this back in. You can see I've burned through a little bit in spots, but we'll just keep filling it up. The inside, this one's going to be a little more tricky. That's a bigger gap there. So I think I'll be able to get it down to here, and then I may end up having to lay in a piece of wire or something to weld this up. I was initially going to just, common sense would say tack, 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 tack like that all the way around. But because these aren't lining up perfectly, I'm finding it easier to just kind of work my way around and then work the two pieces to get them level. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm going to keep doing until we're done. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm tacking. I'm doing about 4 tacks, no more than that, because I don't want to introduce too much heat. I'll do 4 here going that way and 4 here coming this way. And I think I talked about laying some wire in there or something, but I'm not. I'm just filling off the previous weld that I did. And I'm leveling the two surfaces as I go, as need be. Then I'll close it and do the top. I'm doing the same thing on the top side. So I'll show you real quick what I'm doing here. And that's all I'm doing at one time, because I don't want to get this too hot and have it start warping. So now I'm going to let that completely cool down before I hit it again. But I'm doing the same thing up here on this side now. Okay, now I'm going to let it cool, And then just keep doing that over and over until I got the gaps done. All right, let's just see what we're doing. So 4 tacks is about from right here to right here. Let's just do. Same with this way. So I'll wait till it's completely cool, and then I'll keep tapping or using the pry or whatever to get these leveled up. And then the top side, doing the same thing. All right. Got the whole thing welded up, so let's take a look at it and then we'll grind it down. All right. All welded up. Now we'll get set up and we'll grind that weld off. All right, I'm going to grind this weld down now. I'm going to use this 36 grit disc on here. It'll make quick work of it. I'll probably grind most of it off and then switch to something a little less aggressive to kind of finish it off. I don't care about the paint out here or anywhere in here because that's all going to get I'm going to spray in the bed liner. And I'm going to bring the bed liner out to about here as the plan. So I'm going to run a piece of tape along here just to remind myself not to grind out this way as much as I can help it, because I don't want to have to repaint this if I don't have to. So I'm going to concentrate really hard on staying on top of these welds so I don't thin it out. So let's set up and get started. All right, I got a step stool here so I can get up on top of this weld. Alright, I'm going to let my air compressor recoup a little bit, and I'm going to bring you in here and show you what it looks like. So you can see how it's going. I've mostly stayed on top of the weld so far. So I'm going to keep doing that. Okay, now let's remember I'm not doing a metal finish job here. So this is not getting all planished out perfect and everything. We have a couple little holes we're going to fill. There's one right there. There's one there. So I'm going to get the welder out, fill up any holes that are there. You can see there's still a little bit of grinding to do. So I'm going to fill those holes now and get those ground down, and then we're pretty close to being done. All right, I'll grind those off. All right, I'm going to go over the whole area with something a little less aggressive. Just take some of the deep scratches out of here. All right. If I was metal finishing this, or if this was a quarter panel or something, I would continue welding on here, getting this all nice and flat. But this is the tailgate, and it's going to get a bed liner sprayed on it. So I have it just basically roughed in. I'm going to clean it all up now with acetone and shoot some primer on it. And what I used, my less aggressive whatever, I used this, and honestly I don't know exactly what grit that is. It's probably like 120 or something. But I'm going to clean that with acetone and then shoot a coat of primer. So I'm just shooting some etching primer on this. Again, I don't care about overspray on anything above that point. Of course, I'm using that just to protect everything else. All right, let that dry and then I'll shoot on another coat. All right, I got a couple coats of primer on it. You can see a little bit of blemishes here. That's okay. Again, we weren't doing metal finishing. Let me see through here. This dips down. If I was doing some, quarter panel work or something like that, I would have continued to weld and fill all of this in. But it is sealed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a skim coat of Bondo across here and across here just to level it out. Even though on this project I don't need to really, because this is going to be sprayed with bed liner. But for the sake of this video, we'll go ahead and do that. So let's get some Bondo spread. All right, let's mix up some Bondo. And we're just going to do a light coat over the areas that we repaired, just to smooth them out. All right, that should do it. We'll let this dry and then we'll sand it off. Shape it a little bit. All right, I'm going to start sanding this down. I'm using this, it's actually a Bondo file or a scraper. And they make a nice handle for it, which I don't have. So I'm just going to use it by hand, but it'll allow you to start shaping it without creating a bunch of dust and stuff. So we're going to do most of it with this, and then I'll come back with a DA or something and finish it off. All right, I used the file to get it mostly cut down. Now I'm just using some sandpaper in some of these holes here to get some of this out of here and smooth it out and start feathering it out. If this was like really real body work where, you know, a fender or something, I could see this would need a couple more coats and sand back again and get it all perfect. But this is a tailgate that's in a truck that's already full of dents and stuff anyway. We just needed to get that big one out. So I'm not going to go any further with the Bondo than this after I smooth it out. This will be the first and only coat. So I'll work on it a little bit more with the sandpaper, and then I'll probably hit it with the DA to feather it, and that'll be it. All right, I got it all smoothed out. I did make a mistake. Remember when I ground this down and I put a piece of tape here in order to keep myself from going this too far over? For some reason, I did not do that with the Bondo. I got Bondo all the way down here, and then I had to sand it off. So now I'm going to have to paint this. But I got paint on order. Hopefully it matches good. Anyway, I'm going to shoot a coat of primer on it now. And we're just about done. And it came out really good. All right, I'm going to shoot a quick coat of primer on this. So you can see right here, I could use a little bit more Bondo. Right here, I could have skimmed that, but when I do the bed liner on here, I think that'll hide all that stuff, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just going to shoot a coat of this on it. All right, I'm going to leave this one here. I'm going to start preparing this thing now for a bed liner, which is going to come up over here. I do have some green paint on order. As you can see, that's not a dent. It might look like it, but that's where I forgot to mask off when I did the Bondo and had to sand off some of this. So anyway, I hope this helps somebody and that you got something out of it. This is that little area. Yeah, right there. Could have used a little bit more Bondo on there to smooth that out. But since I'm doing the bed liner, I'm not going to even worry about it, because as you can see, the whole rest of the bed is full of dents and chips and whatnot. So, all right. Anyway, take care. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you on the next one.